I was suddenly taken to my in-laws' house. There, all the relatives summoned by my husband were gathered. My husband announced with a triumphant smile,
"The reason I gathered everyone here today is none other than to let everyone know about my wife's betrayal."
Huh? The sudden words left our relatives and in-laws astonished. I, holding our daughter close, couldn't help but stare at my husband in disbelief. My husband carefully took out a certain piece of paper and spread it on the table. It was a DNA test report with our daughter's name written on it. In the middle, there were words denying any paternal relationship.
"This is it. The result of the DNA test shows that the daughter here is not my child. This proves my wife's infidelity."
Excitedly, my husband elaborated. With a puzzled look, my mother-in-law asked,
What? What does this mean?"
Unable to hold back, I burst into laughter. As I laughed loudly, the relatives looked startled.
"Why are you laughing? Do you intend to just brush this off?"
In response to my husband's stern questioning, I maintained a composed expression. "But you investigated your mistress's child, didn't you?"
Huh?
In unison, the relatives all chimed in, and my husband also had a puzzled expression. That's when I told everyone the truth. My name is Nancy Harris, and I'm a 33-year-old housewife. I had originally worked very hard in a career track position for a large company. My income was higher than others my age, but the job came with significant responsibility and was quite demanding. As time passed while I worked, my 30s were approaching. At that time, I didn't have a boyfriend. "Are you not getting married? It's better to have children early," my parents started saying, making me anxious, so I registered with a matchmaking agency. That's when I was introduced to Thomas, who would later become my husband. Thomas was the same age as me and worked as a physical therapist. His income was average, but he worked at a large rehabilitation facility, so combined with my income, we could expect a stable life.
"Now see, you're what they call a career woman, right? I've never had a corporate job, so I don't know, but I think it's really cool."
Do you think we can make it work after getting married?
"We can definitely build a happy home together, I promise."
Thomas smiling like that seemed radiant to me. After a year of dating, Thomas proposed to me and I introduced him to my parents. My father and mother also approved of our marriage. And finally, it was time to visit his family's home. He's an only child, and both of his parents live there. "Nice to meet you. I'm Nancy. I'm dating Thomas." With nervousness, I greeted them to the entrance, and Joanne, my mother-in-law, smiled.
"Well, what a lovely young lady. Come on in."
Such a warm attitude from my mother-in-law made me feel relieved. Eugene, my father-in-law, tells me as he greets me,
"Nancy, Thomas is lucky to have you. He's not the best son, but I'm counting on you."
"Oh, Dad. Likewise, I'm looking forward to getting to know you." My mother-in-law also smiled at me the whole time, and the occasion ended peacefully. On the way back, Thomas told me with a seemingly unenthusiastic tone,
"My parents really liked you."
"I don't know. I hope so."
"Those people were quite strict with me. My father used to beat me when I was little. Maybe it's because you, Nancy, work for a big company."
I'm not sure about that, but your parents were kind people. We had such a conversation, and that day we parted ways. Afterward, Thomas and I registered our marriage and started living together after a small wedding. However, Thomas didn't do any housework. Even when I asked him, he would lazily say,
"Isn't housework the wife's job? Nancy, you must be busy too, so I'll help with the housework."
What were those words before marriage all about? However, I endured, thinking we're still newlyweds. After living such a life for a year, my pregnancy was confirmed. When I told him, Thomas exclaimed,
"Wow, that's great."
He happily shared the news with his parents right away. When he handed me the phone, his mother kindly said this,
"Congratulations, Nancy. Your father is also delighted. Take care of yourself, and if there's anything we can do, just let us know."
Thank you, Mom. Once again, I felt grateful for being blessed with such wonderful parents-in-law. Then, my pregnancy journey began, but Thomas never showed any concern for me. Instead of helping with household chores, he would even rush me when I was bedridden with morning sickness, asking,
"Where's my food?"
It was infuriating to see him behave as if he cared about me in front of his parents, but I didn't want to worry my always kind parents-in-law, so I couldn't tell them the truth. Eventually, I gave birth. It was a girl, and we named her Chloe. Our parents-in-law were overjoyed with their first grandchild, not only giving us a large sum of money as a gift, but also showering Chloe with affection. In front of such happy parents, Thomas oddly wore a smug expression. Then my father-in-law says something.
"Thomas, from now on you need to have a sense of responsibility as a father and work hard at both your job and raising your child."
To which Thomas replied,
"I know, Dad. I even took paternity leave."
Perhaps now that the child is born, he might change. I held such faint hope. However, he hardly helped with childcare or household chores at all.
"Chloe, you're so cute."
He would hold Chloe and say such things, but as soon as her diaper got wet or she got hungry and started crying, he would immediately hand her over to me. It's gross when the diaper gets wet. Thomas, could you change it?
"Huh? I don't want to do something so dirty."
Oh, come on. Then could you at least vacuum the house?
"Too much hassle. I don't even know how to do it. And you're good at it, right, Nancy?"
At this rate, he didn't even try to learn household chores, let alone childcare. Here I am, exhausted after childbirth, sleep-deprived from nursing. While I'm busy with housework and childcare, what is Thomas doing? He's just lazing around at home, glued to his phone. Sometimes he'd casually go out to gamble, and there were times he wouldn't come back all day. What was the point of taking childcare leave? With that thought, I felt frustrated. However, amidst the demands of childcare, I couldn't vent my frustrations to anyone. Time passed, and Chloe turned 3. I returned to work, working full throttle. Even after I returned to work, Thomas continued to delegate household chores and childcare to me. On top of that, he said,
"I'm involved in launching a new branch."
He started coming home quite late, starting several months ago. Understanding the importance of work myself, I wanted to show my understanding. However, Thomas takes off for work, even on the rare weekends when he can spend time with Chloe. Furthermore, occasionally when we're together as a couple, he started saying sarcastic things to me.
"Maybe you've been so busy with work you've neglected your housework lately. Are you even spending time with Chloe?"
Such words from Thomas made me snap. I'm handling things just fine. I don't need to hear this from someone hardly ever home.
"What's with that attitude? You really lack any charm."
I don't care about that. Can you leave me alone? As conversations like this increased, our relationship grew colder and colder. One day I was about to put the clothes Thomas had strewn about into the washing machine. A faint, sweet fragrance drifted through the air. What's this? The smell of perfume? Meanwhile, Thomas was fast asleep, snoring loudly. It was then that I first began to suspect my husband. I agonized over it for a while. Could it be that he's lying about work and seeing another woman? But would he really do that with Chloe and me here? Feeling frustrated and realizing that nothing would begin if I just let it be, I decided to ask a detective agency to investigate Thomas. One day, a month later, I nervously opened the results received from the detective agency. The results were damning. It turned out Thomas was cheating with a coworker. Cheating despite having a family? Absolutely unforgivable. Clenching my fists, I flipped through the investigation results and found something interesting. There were some interesting things written there. Seeing that, I couldn't help but smirk. A few days later, he didn't come home until we were asleep that night either. I put Chloe to bed and fell asleep right next to her. But in the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up. When I slowly opened my eyes in the darkness, I saw Thomas doing something as if looming over Chloe. I suppressed my pounding heart and firmly burned the scene into my mind. Soon, Thomas moved away from Chloe and headed to the living room. After about 10 minutes, he returned and started pretending to sleep in his own bed. I seized the opportunity and did something in the living room. A month after that night, Thomas suddenly exclaimed,
We're going to my parents' house today for a family gathering.
I was flustered by the sudden announcement, and he hurried me, saying,
Hurry up.
As he drove, he inexplicably had a smirk on his face. Upon arriving at his parents' house, several relatives and his parents were waiting. His mother began.
Thomas, what's the sudden family gathering for?
Then Thomas started saying something like this.
The reason I asked you all to gather here today is, among other things, to let everyone know about my wife's betrayal.
Huh? The sudden words startled the relatives and in-laws. While holding Chloe, I too looked at Thomas with wide eyes. My father-in-law said, What on earth is going on? Please explain properly. Thomas carefully took out a certain paper and spread it on the table. It was a DNA test report with our daughter's name written on it. In the middle were words denying paternity.
That's right. The DNA test results show that the child here is not mine. This proves my wife's infidelity.
Thomas exclaimed excitedly.
Look, Mom, Dad, this is the real Nancy, my wife. The grandchild you've been cherishing is just a stranger's child with no blood relation. No way. Nancy, what's going on?
My mother-in-law asked with a bewildered look. I couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. As I laughed loudly, the relatives looked startled.
What are you laughing at? Are you trying to act indifferent?
The calm expression, I responded to my husband's question. But what you investigated is the child of your mistress, isn't it?
Huh?
All the relatives chimed in, and Thomas also had a puzzled expression on his face.
What are you saying in desperation? I don't understand what you mean.
Turning red, I explained to him. A month ago, after we fell asleep, I saw you taking a sample from Chloe's mouth. That's when I realized you were trying to do a DNA test.
Huh?
Seeing Thomas's shock, I continued. So after you fell asleep, I checked your car. 2 envelopes came out. One had Chloe's name, and the other had Mary written on it, along with documents and samples. That's when I did this. I took out my phone and played a video. The video showed me swapping the samples inside the envelopes.
What? What the hell are you doing? You're saying you swapped the samples?
The DNA test results requested under Chloe's name turned out to be for Mary, and Mary's results were actually supposed to be Chloe's. But who is Mary? I calmly asked, leaving Thomas gaping in astonishment. A silence fell over the room.
Hey, Thomas. What's going on here? Explain yourself properly.
My father-in-law raised his voice, but Thomas remained speechless. So I spoke up again. So basically, Thomas tried to DNA test both his mistress's child and my child at the same time, but I intervened, so the test results got mixed up. I did it because I knew you would react like this based on the results.
Huh?
I anticipated that if you found out Chloe's father wasn't you, you would take some dramatic action. I never expected you to gather the relatives like this, though. So how does it feel to have the truth exposed in front of the whole family? My in-laws and relatives all glared at him. That's when he said something like this.
This is all nonsense. I don't have a mistress. Let alone a child from a mistress. This is all fabricated by Nancy. Mom, Dad, believe me.
Oh, really? Then what about this? I laid out the investigation results from the detective agency in front of everyone. There were pictures of Thomas kissing an unfamiliar woman, entering a hotel, and walking together pushing a stroller. Seeing that, the relatives started saying things like,
This is decisive. It's obvious that Thomas is the one cheating.
With undeniable evidence before him, Thomas slumped in defeat.
Okay, I admit to cheating. But Nancy, you didn't swap the DNA samples, did you? You must have swapped it with someone else's child, right? It's impossible that Mary isn't my child.
Unfortunately, it seems the child you thought was your mistress's is actually a stranger with no blood relation to you. This is the investigation report from the detective agency. Thomas skimmed through it. It stated the fact that Thomas's mistress had been with multiple men.
This is a lie. This can't be true. She says she loved me.
Thomas began to shed large tears. I looked at him in shock. Then the next moment, shouts echoed through the room.
You idiotic son!
Then my father-in-law swung his fist with all his might. Thunk. A tremendous sound reverberated throughout the room.
Ouch, it hurts!
As Thomas cried out and crouched down, my mother-in-law started hitting him with her open hand.
You! What on earth do you think you're doing? Apologize to Nancy, you fool! It's embarrassing to think you're our child!
It seems that the words Thomas mentioned before marriage about strict parents were indeed true. I just watched in silence as Thomas was beaten up by my in-laws. Eventually, Thomas was forced to kneel down by my father-in-law.
Ugh, Nancy, I'm sorry.
Huh?
Chloe is my child, right? So there shouldn't be any problem. Let's just forget about this and go back to being a family, okay?
Thomas shamelessly suggested such a thing. Before I could respond, my father-in-law delivered another powerful punch. Seeing Thomas stagger from the below, I snapped at him. Who would want to continue being a family with you, you idiot? We're getting a divorce. Get ready to pay alimony and child support properly, you worthless scumbag.
But...
After that, I took Chloe and went back home. The angry shouts of relatives and in-laws echoed from behind. Later, our divorce was finalized. Of course, I got custody of Chloe. I demanded $30,000 in alimony and child support from Thomas. The alimony came from Thomas's savings, and we agreed on $700 per month for child support. Furthermore, I demanded alimony and child support from Thomas's affair partner as well. In the end, it seems Thomas broke up with his mistress. With the payment of compensation wiping out his savings, he was also estranged from his parents and relatives. Moreover, after I told Thomas's colleagues about the situation, rumors of his affair spread in the workplace and Thomas was demoted. Unable to bear the cold looks, Thomas later resigned voluntarily and eventually became unemployed. Having lost everything, he now desperately searches for a new job while living in a rundown apartment. I have no sympathy for Thomas in this situation. On the other hand, I have returned to my parents' house and am working while raising Chloe. I occasionally let Chloe meet her grandparents, who supported us until the end. I look forward to my daughter's growth and hope to live a positive life from now on.